Well, hello to everybody. Here it's Teresa Sanderson. As always, excited to connect with you. Today we are talking about 3 benefits of online peer support networks for nurses. And I'm just really excited to chat with you about this because peer support, I think, is very, very important for nurses at all stages of their careers. We know there's a terrible number out there that 33% of new nurses are leaving the profession within their first 2 years. Leaving the profession, guys, not just quitting a job, but leaving the profession. And also, we know that our seasoned nurses, our veteran nurses, are also tired and in need of support themselves. So, how can online peer support networks for nurses support them in staying in the game long haul in their careers? And possibly improve retention and improve morale and improve, resilience, emotional intelligence, all of those things that are important for us to be able to impact what's going on in nursing today. So I'm super excited to dive into this with you and just chat a little bit about it. And so, we've talked a little bit in the last week or so about the benefits of community overall. And so peer support networks, this is something I think that really hits home for nurses because, we've discussed that many times our friends, our families cannot begin to understand what the work that we do is like. For that ER nurse who manages the fresh gunshot wound that comes in off the street, and maybe that doesn't end well, maybe there's a death, and in spite of everybody's best efforts, right? Can anybody, any layperson ever really equate to that? Or similarly, the work, that hospice professionals do year in, year out, tending to the aging and the dying, who have death after death after death that they experience and are constantly helping patients and families, through those things. Not to mention just the routine daily stressors of how do I get all this stuff done in 12 hours and keep my patients alive and not get sued, right? So there's those realities too. So I think many people, if they're not in the profession, if they're not in healthcare, they probably can't understand. And this is where peer support comes in, and it's vitally important. So let's just talk about this because specifically today, I want to talk about online peer support networks for nurses. And so one of the benefits, we're going to just go over 3 quick ones, but of course, enhanced emotional well-being. I think this is, it's such a simple concept. Yes, when you get together with people who've had similar experiences, there is a high level of understanding, a high level of compassion, a high level of support that can be exchanged, right? Both given and received. So, but it can be hard for nurses to find time to access peer support. And one of the interesting things in social media is that, a lot of nurses do navigate to nursing groups, but many times those groups, whether they're on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever, they can be very negatively charged and many times only focus on what's negative, and they're not really led by or with the intention of being a formal peer support kind of thing, right? So this is where how those groups are moderated and administered can sometimes be lacking and can be somewhat problematic. Now, that's not to say that without these groups, nurses would have even less available peer support, but it's just something that we should be mindful of, okay? And I don't necessarily think everything needs a super rigid structure or anything like that, but I do think it's important to have sort of a kind of ground rules for how are we going to interact in these spaces? Who is going to moderate? What is our focus in this group? And what does peer support really look like? And how can we receive the best version of that? So emotional well-being, by connecting with others who have shared similar stories, similar experiences, nothing can surpass that as far as peer support for emotional well-being. Now, in the online space, again, when we have peer support available in the online space for nurses, then it becomes easily accessible. Okay, so that's one of the biggest benefits of having it in the online space. Now, also, the second benefit that I want to cover about online peer support networks for nurses is that nurses have access to a diverse volume of perspectives, insights, knowledge bases, experiences, and all of these things. So for new graduate nurses, having access to a peer support system can mean that you can readily access experts in the space that you would like to work in or maybe are working in. For seasoned nurses who are tired, you can maybe work and communicate and connect with other nurses who have been where you are and have the same kind of feelings, and maybe were able to back away from burnout and effectively continue their careers in traditional nursing. So just having access to, again, that group of people who has those similar experiences and similar knowledge base and all of those things, this in itself is a huge support. But as we also have available a variety of perspectives, a variety of best practices to be shared, and a wealth of ideas, right? In this kind of crucible, then having access to all of that kind of dialogue really becomes kind of a mastermind for learning, a mastermind for strategizing, and support on a very high level. So this is something that's very unique, I think, about online spaces, and it happens more and more often. But I love the easy accessibility that online networks provide for peer support. Okay. And then lastly, the biggest benefit of online peer support networks for nurses is that they are easily and readily available. Okay. And so when you're able to access the community you need 24/7, no matter what time, day or night, and pose your question, perhaps connect to somebody in that group, in that moment when you need it, that is vitally important for nurses, because one of the things that I've been hearing from many nurses is the sense of aloneness, the sense of being alone and totally unsupported. And so I don't care what shift a nurse may be on, that's kind of a scary thought, to feel alone as a nurse when we are literally navigating in the healthcare setting life and death patient situations. We don't need to feel alone. We don't need to feel isolated. We need to feel supported and prepared to do the best job that we can. So again, online peer support networks for nurses are valuable because of their flexibility. And also, again, in the online space, this is where, even in typical I don't want to say run of the mill, but typical everyday Facebook communities, and other online social media communities, where nurses that have nurse in the name, nurses of all levels hop in there. So you might have even CNAs or home health aides who are aspiring to be nurses. You've got licensed nurses. You've got academic nurses, nurses who work at the universities. We've got nurse practitioners. We've got all kinds, nurse entrepreneurs and specialties. And so when we have this kind of a melting pot, for lack of a better word, of all of our different nursing professions, this is where we have a high level or a high potential for creating a super dynamic learning environment where we can ping off of each other and share our best ideas and best practices on a very flexible schedule. So I'm super excited that to be sharing this information with you. And I hope you found it helpful and gained a little insight into why Nurses Feed Their Young is now launching its member community, the NFTY member community. And we're actually going to have our formal grand opening event on Black Friday 2024. It starts that entire weekend. It's going to continue for weeks, but I'm super excited and would love to have you be a part of this event. So click the link below this video. Our grand opening event is going to be like no other. It is a Black Friday event for nurses, by nurses, and we would love to see you there. So click the link, get on the wait list, and we'll see you soon. Bye.